In this presentation, we're going to talk about assessing for success for 4th to 12th graders. In one case, it may be a high school student who needs to improve their reading comprehension and SAT scores to get into a better college, or a smart, struggling kid in 4th to 12th grade. One thing to say is it's never too late to start. We really hit the wall with our daughter almost 30 years ago when she was told she wasn't college material because her reading comprehension was 3 years below grade level. And I turned to Julie and I asked, Julie, what do you want to be? And she said the teacher she never had. Mira, her mom, who has her master's in education, became a mom on a mission and developed the 3D Learner program that helped Julie improve her reading comprehension 4 grade levels in 7 months, improve her GPA from a 2.7 to a 4.4, and later earn her master's and her doctorate from the University of Florida. It is possible to make significant gains in a period of months.
Well, as parents, we've been where you're sitting now, frustrated with why is my smart kid so frustrated and why are they anxious and why are they just not succeeding? Well, we've been doing this for 28 years. And again, we have the emotional hurt about what it was like to be able to watch our own kids be able to be frustrated. Our team is amazing that they've been with us for over 15 years, and our process that we have the ability to be able to connect with kids now, even especially virtually. We've been able to relate to them in a way that sometimes other people can't because we understand how they learn. Sometimes it's not just about identifying the learning piece, it's about connecting with them about sports or about art or about what their passion is, because finding that passion can make all the difference. We also have a completely different sort of assessment process that looks at their strengths and their abilities, as well as other issues like processing or working memory or executive function in real world kinds of things, not just a not just a test that sort of looks at different things that doesn't seem to, to relate to how kids learn. Our process is completely unique and holistic. We look at movement, we look at exercise, and our results show. We have parents that have come back to us years later, and when their kids are now having kids of their own and saying, oh my goodness, you made such a difference. We've changed. You have no idea how you changed my kid's life. We couldn't have done it without having you help all of us.
As we look at kids, especially as they get a little bit older, they've got to create their own why. Okay. What's in it for them? Because we've had cases where the kid really didn't care. And to be honest, we can't help in those cases. Okay. We can try, but really having an engaged student is really important. And a lot of times now we're seeing kids who are trying to get into better colleges. They need better GPAs. They need SAT scores. They want to be able to excel in honors and in AP classes. And they also want to be able to finish tests on time. It's one of those biggest problems people have is just reading speed and processing speed. They want to get into a different college. We've had kids wanting to get to Northwestern, University of Chicago. Those are the kinds of kids that are highly motivated. And we can definitely increase their chances. And then we've had kids who were struggling to get a Bright Future Scholarship, which is a scholarship Florida offers for good grades and good SAT scores. And we've had kids put a $20,000 check on their bulletin board. And all of a sudden, the kid's GPA went from a 2.8 to a 3.6, and his scores reached the magic number because he was motivated. He knew what he needed to do to succeed. We also look at it and say, what is it do they really want to do? If sports is important, or music or dance, we want to engage them in a way that's important to them. And one of the things we've been able to do is, even for kids in high school they're smart kids, they might even have an A average, but their reading level is, let's say, in 11th grade is at 11th grade, or 9th grade is at 8th grade level we had, and all of a sudden 4 to 6 months later, their reading comprehension level's 2 or 3 grade levels higher. It makes a huge difference to them. And we've been able to take their SAT scores, which might have been even good scores, like 1210. But the kid wanted to get into the University of Michigan, and it took a score closer to 1500, which we were able to do because we set the goals and then we do what it takes to help them get there. Now, for these kids, especially for the kids in high school, we don't necessarily have to do a whole assessment.
You can do something that's called a Mindprint Assessment that looks at executive functions. And as I said, in real time, like how does this affect how kids are learning? It actually assesses if maybe the SAT is better or the ACT is better, but it looks at how a kid learns and what the strengths and weaknesses are and can project their scores and can actually tell us and tell them what test might be better for them to be able to do. We use a Reading Plus, which is a silent reading assessment that look at their reading speed, their comprehension, and their vocabulary level, as well as how they feel about reading. All of these are intentional, and what they've really found from the Mindprint assessment of 75,000 students is it's fascinating that working memory and flexibility of thought has been it's been totally affected, and I'm going to say negatively affected by the pandemic. Kids are doing things differently now. We need to be able to help them learn how they learn best.
Then there's another set of kids we help who are what I call the struggling students, okay, where they have a significant problem with reading comprehension, with math word problems, reading speed, and they're stuck in the wrong classes. Sometimes they're in special ed classes when they can do a lot better if they're in regular classes, okay? And again, these kids also often have interests in sports or music or dance, okay? And one of the things that shocked us, but it shouldn't have because it happened to us, is a lot of these kids are 3 to 5 years behind, and we've actually had more than 24 kids who are more than 5 years behind show up. That's not their fault. The simple matter is the schools after third grade pay much less attention to reading levels, and these kids can fall further and further behind. Okay. The good news is these kids can improve significantly. We've had a number of kids, in this case, it was a ninth grader who was reading at the fifth grade level, and 4 months later, he's the ninth grade level, and his reading speed went from 200 words a minute to 360, which means he could get a lot better grade points, a lot better SAT scores. He actually wound up with several college scholarships. Okay, and one of the critical steps, okay, is determining that the status quo is unacceptable and it can be changed, and then getting to the why to engage your child, okay, and then figuring out what you have to do to get there.
So, our assessment, as we said, is unique. This is what we include a structure of intellect assessment that is looking at how kids learn best, whether they are visual, whether they are auditory, whether they are kinesthetic. The Mindprint Assessment that looks at their executive functions, working memory, flexibility of thought, vocabulary, how they see things. On the Reading Plus assessment, which assesses, as I said, a silent reading, especially now, it's really important that kids be able to read silently and understand what they're reading. It's not about it's not about decoding at this particular one. It's about having them be able to understand what they're reading. All of that is included in what we do to be able to put a full comprehension about where our kids are at and what we can be doing to be able to help them be successful.
It's clear to understand that our assessment is designed to help a kid succeed, not necessarily to label a kid with a disability. We're much more interested in how do we go from stress to success. One of the things that we really encourage parents to do is take these questionnaires, which will be down below, a link to them, which is your child a right brain neurodivergent learner? Because if they are, traditional tutoring may fall short, whereas a more holistic approach may help them. The other thing is, especially reading speed is impacted in large part by visual processing. So it's important to understand if your kid has a visual processing issue. If we can help, and if you're interested in just taking this further And not only thinking about how do you assess for success, but how do you change your child's life by significantly improving their reading speed, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and processing skills. Give us a call at 561-361-7495, or you can go to 3dlearner.com/book now and find a mutually agreeable time to have a conversation on how to help your child be assessed for success.